I think the federal government had given license to a Chinese company to start making EV vehicles in Nigeria. I saw that this morning and I was thinking to myself, okay, so now I know that you have other manufacturers in Nigeria that are on that EV trail. In my mind, the economist and strategist in me began asking, okay, so what happens to those companies that are trying to set up?
In a continent powered by possibility lies Africa's energy narrative, brought to you by Visual Capital. We explore how innovation and policy meet infrastructure, where energy access shapes lives and stories spark transformation. Each episode features raw conversations with Africa's energy changemakers, where we uncover challenges and emerging opportunities across the continent's energy landscape. Africa's energy narrative, where energy and storytelling ignites the future.
All right. My name is Uche, and I'm the Director of Media and Content Strategy at Visual Capital. And we are happy to have you on this inaugural episode of our Africa's Energy Narrative session. So please, sir, can you introduce yourself?
Hey, thank you very much, Uche. My name is Dr. Kaase Gbakon. Um, I've had experience with previously with NPC for some years. I worked in my last before I left with NPC. I was with the corporate planning and strategy, where my work really involved assets evaluation and economics, analytics, and what have you. By way of background, um, I have a degree in electrical engineering, and a master's in petroleum economics, as well as in engineering, and a PhD in petroleum economics as well. Right now, I'm a senior economist working with the Ministry of Energy and Resources in Canada.
Oh, that's really interesting because I have a background in engineering as well. I studied civil engineering, and
Oh,
it's
great.
really
Oh,
it's really
nice.
interesting to see how engineers can actually transition into less technical roles. I can see that you transition from core electrical engineering into a a less technical one, right? I would like to ask, what do you think made you involved in the energy sector, and why did you choose to go the route that you went?
So that's interesting. So essentially, it was all about career growth and progression, right? Um, it turned out that in my growth trajectory through NNPC, I got to a point where, it was important for me to switch from a core technical function to one that was more, you know, strategy focused and planning focused. And as it turned out, the skill sets were the same, and the skill sets required, let me say, were the same. However, the kind of problems you dealt with were different, and so it was in pursuit of something exciting, something different, something, um, you know, away from what I had been doing, for some time before that point in the switch, and I made the leap. you know like I said, the skill sets required were, similar type skill sets. You'll be solving problems, except that the nature of the problems would change, and you will be dealing with problems that had real, well, let me not say real problems that had, significant strategic national import. And so, I mean, it was a no-brainer for me at the time.
Oh, wow, that's really impressive, and it's interesting to hear because these days a lot of young engineers happen to streamline their career path to the technical parts of engineering, and it's becoming very obvious the need for soft skills and amongst engineers, because over time it has been believed that engineers are just the technical guys, but in recent times the importance of having this non-technical managerial skills cannot be
Mm.
overemphasized. So it's really an interesting one. So talking about
Yeah.
you moving to strategies, and I also see that you have some experience in data analytics. So what role did data analytics play, if any, in these corporate strategies?
Okay, so that was, in fact, that is at the core of that's at the core of the spectrum of skill sets that are required to thrive in corporate strategy. So remember, I said that there were skill sets that I possessed as coming from a technical engineering background, which
Yeah.
I ported into a strategy role. Now, data analytics is just one such skill, right? Now, data analytics plays it's at the center of strategy because when we're evaluating options, you need data, right? And you need to be able to analyze that data using different methods. So analytic skills comes in very, very handy. The ability to be able to analyze and think through the steps of solving a problem, that becomes very key to doing it. So the analytic skills was and is very critical to a career or a workflow within corporate strategy and planning. In my role, specifically as an economist, because I transitioned into what we used to call commercial analysts, which is really an economics type position. The role there involves a lot of investment or what we used to be called asset evaluation, right? So this is a lot of financial analysis, financial modeling, where you're dealing with strategic thinking, strategic fit. We're looking at business models, all right? And all of those things require putting together all kinds of data. It can range from numerical data or quantitative type of data right through to qualitative type of data, each one requiring its own kind of analytical skills you put around it. So yes, it played significant role in that strategy function. But I will quickly add that in addition to that analytic skill playing a very key role in a strategy function, I'll just quickly add that on top of it was the need or is the need to be able to communicate those results of those analyses to a wider audience. Because a lot of the times the people that you'll be conveying your output of your analysis or your insights do not have the level of technical depth that you would have deployed to bring those results to life. Okay, so you need to be able to balance and communicate those results across in a way that it makes sense and gets adopted and implemented at the end of the day. So, yeah, analytics one set of skills, but there's a complementary suite of skills that needs to go with it.
Yeah, absolutely. That's amazing, right? Because at Visual Capital, we focus on trying to bridge the gap between the complexities of the Nigerian energy industry and even Africa at large, and the citizens, the people that are actually going through these challenges. And we see in the media a lot of times that social number of Nigerians lack access to electricity, lack access to reliable energy, but these things just seem like figures, numbers, and also at Visual Capital we try to bridge that gap, right, between those complexities and getting these people to understand the importance of all the work, all the amazing work people like you are doing.
Mm.
So what role
Thank
do you
you.
think digital media agencies like this can still play in helping pass this message?
Well, I mean, there are several opportunities for digital media, agencies and groups to contribute to the whole conversation around energy. Like the name suggests, obviously it's digital media. So, like the name suggests, you are in the business of conveying this information
Yeah.
mostly through a digital format or digital medium to a wide populace, right? Now, of course, I know that communicating on social media has its own unique set of challenges, and having experience in the energy sector, I know that there are certain kind of messages that do not very easily carry across, on those medias, right? So one of the opportunities to be able to convey that information is if there are innovative ways that are able to break down the message and get out one single or a few core truths about any energy situation, across to as many people as you want to get across this information to, right? So I would say that's one area of opportunity. The other area of opportunity is, of course, for practitioners in that digital media space to become familiarize themselves with the sector, industry specific terms, and to be able to interpret and convey that information as accurately as possible to the group. I realize that not a lot of people that will be working in digital media would necessarily have the background in energy and engineering and policy and all of that. But however, there needs to be a way to bridge that gap. Okay, if it requires upskilling, if it requires spending more time in the field, talking to engineers, talking to economists, talking to policy people, then that needs to happen so that you are not only conveying the message accurately, you are also seen to be contributing value to the conversation, because sometimes you get information conveyed on social media spaces and I'm listening and I know, okay, that's not entirely accurate, or this can be interpreted in different ways, and you see a pushback from the wider population and you understand where that is coming from, because the understanding is not just conveyed properly. Having said that, I also recognize the challenges, because like I said, the energy economics space is not is it has a lot of nuance to it that requires a lot of significant training and significant experience to appreciate and understand. So I understand those challenges, right? But those are some of the opportunities and the ways to be able to address those gaps. And I actually do see some media houses, also media outlets, making attempts to do this. Just so you know.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, we believe so much in storytelling, because we understand that that's one of the ways we can get this message across to a wider populace, because it's believed that humans are more attracted to information in form of a story. Right? They'll listen to you more when you're telling a story. So we try to put that information in such a form that it's able to pass that message. So I have a question. And in the event that we are, these digital media agencies and outlets are able to effectively convey this information to a wider populace, what effects do you think it would have on the energy industry in Nigeria and Africa?
Well, so for one, hopefully it should create a more enlightened citizenry. That's number one. Two, it should also, which will derive from having an enlightened citizenry, it should also spur citizens to ask the right questions of their representatives or right questions of their governments. Okay, so sometimes like you take in Nigeria or Africa as a case point, or Nigeria specifically, sometimes I see an issue which is widespread in the public space. However, because in my view, I think the main story of that conversation is missing, you find that the right questions are not being asked. Okay, and if the right questions are not being asked, then you can't get the right you can't get the right answers, and you just have a lot of noise generated. So the outcome of having this message resonate with the wider populace is that you have an enlightened citizenry that is able to ask the right questions and able to hold authorities to account and demand, accountability, and demand what they should really get out of the energy space, or out of these energy services, as the case may be. Again, we see some of these things playing out in other energy stories that I have seen, and people are getting more aware of it. But yes, what I see is that these questions and an output of media like this would cause more enlightened questions to come to the fore and help advance the conversation around energy access and what have you.
That's amazing. So let's get into the energy transition now. I believe that's a phrase that is becoming more popular in recent times. What challenges and opportunities do you think are available in Nigeria's energy space with the current energy transition?
So energy transition is a big one. I've actually written and spoken quite a bit about energy transition.
Yeah,
Um, and it's a topic that I have come to find very deep interest in, right? Only this morning, I think it was, I saw that I hope I remember this correctly, but I think the federal government had given license to a Chinese company to start making EV vehicles in Nigeria.
okay, yeah,
Okay. And I saw that this morning and I was thinking to myself, okay, license to do EV vehicles. Now I know that there are you have other manufacturers in Nigeria that are on that EV trail.
yeah,
So in my mind, the economists and strategists in me began asking, okay, so what happens to those companies that are trying to set up? Of course, I'm not saying that they should enjoy unfettered protectionism. I was just thinking to myself, what happens to those companies? What is their stage of development? Who is this Chinese company? Is this investment for real? Have they sensed that there's going to be a market for EVs in Nigeria, for example,
yeah,
given the situation with our power grid and the energy requirements to actually run an EV fleet? Um, so all these questions went through my mind. And then, of course, there's the cost element of it. How affordable are EVs? And all of those things. So, but and that's just one challenge and opportunity I just mentioned, the EVs, which
yeah,
is just one corner of the whole energy transition um, universe. For me, I think that in my own candid view, I think energy transition as currently defined in the IEA, and I point out the IEA because it's the foremost organization that has, defined and shaped the world's view of what energy transition is. So you forgive me if I make reference to them, to the organization, is that by the definition of what the IEA sees as energy transition, I think Nigeria is some way off from that point, mostly because infrastructurally, we are still lagging behind in that respect. Um, Strategically, in terms of economic strategically, oil, we are a major oil producer on the African continent with a lot of potential to even do more. Oil serves as a key nerve center for our economic, socio-political well-being. So if you were to transit as imagined by the IEA or as prescribed by the IEA, this has grave fiscal consequences. Um, and mind you, this is not
this
just for
is not just
Nigeria.
what I
This
hear.
is for this is even for well-advanced countries that still have oil as a key export item or export item. I mean, the US, for example, still faces the same issue, right?
Yeah,
So, and then if you look at it from an equity perspective, and I know there are people that we view the way this argument differently, but if you look at it even from an equity perspective, Nigeria's carbon footprint on a global scene is not very much. In fact, if you call the whole of Africa, it's not significant, right? So it's almost like requiring the smallest contributor in the room to bear the greatest weight or
yeah,
some of the most unproportional weights in terms of trying to transition. So those are the challenges I have with it. However, there are other opportunities. So if you look at the scope of what the energy transition is supposed to accomplish, of course, there are various vistas of where you can key in. But if you look at it, parts of it include things like improving energy efficiency or efficiency of the economy, right? So those are areas where, as a country, we could seek opportunities to do, right? So if you are to meet your own goals and your own contribution, one of the ways to do so is by improving the efficiency of your processes, stopping gas flaring, utilizing more gas as opposed to oil and refined products. Those are the opportunities there. So you could align yourself with those areas, and which largely you see happening.
yeah,
Okay. There were other aspects that are not really tuned to, again, like I said, in my own assessment, things like biofuels, for example, or things like hydrogen, or you start talking about things such as grid solar, right? I know a lot of people swear by solar, to the house, home solar. That's well and good. But when you start talking of, should I say, industry level grid type solar, then you may begin to, and of course, I say this knowing full well that the Aso Rock has just signed a billion dollar or billion naira now
Mm.
contract to install solar at the villa. So without prejudice to that, I still think that those there are certain areas or there are certain corners of the energy transition universe that are simply not ripe for us to explore just yet. And the opportunities I've mentioned are some that we can take advantage of.
That's really powerful because in recent times there has been a subtle argument between people from the oil and gas industry and then people from the renewable energy industry as to if Nigeria is ready to be fully part of the energy transition. People believe that we still need to be a little bit reliant on oil and gas. So I think your comment, actually, does address that. I'm glad.
Yes, yes, I think that. Actually, if you look at the like I said, if you look at the scope of what the energy transition covers, in the whole universe of the energy transition, there are several things where there are areas where we can plug in,
Yeah,
okay? And where you plug in is just dependent on where you are as a nation. So where we are as a nation, the places where we can plug in are not where parts of the Western world, well, to be honest, where most of Europe, really, let's be
yeah,
honest, most of the advances in this energy transition we're talking about is happening in Europe. So there are certain areas of that universe you can't readily plug into, right? But there are others where, in fact, we are plugged in and we can advance in those areas. So hydro is an example, right? Um, Gas, now accepted as one of the ways to help with the transition, is an area. Energy efficiency is another area, right?
yeah,
Um, Ending gas flaring, that's another area. So I mean, there are areas within which we can contribute our own quota, should I say, to mitigating climate change. But trying to go all in, in pursuit, like what happens in Norway or what happens in Spain or what happens in, maybe Germany. I mean, and they have their own stories of challenges anyways. I mean, look at Germany, look at what happened in Spain recently, look at what is going on in the UK. These are not very good testimonies for an all-in renewables just yet.
yeah.
So it's something for us to keep in view as we have this discussion and debate.
Right, that's really amazing. So just have like one closing question. So what
Mhm.
message, like in one sentence, what message would you like to convey about the future of Nigeria's energy landscape?
That's a tough one. One sentence.
Well,
Well,
you can
because
exceed
it's
one
such a
sentence actually.
it's
You
it's
can
it's it's
you
such
can exceed
a
one
multi
one
it's such a
sentence. Yeah,
multifaceted energy landscape, and I would say that there is hope amidst challenges,
yeah,
and that energy landscape is very critical to Nigeria's economic well-being.
yeah,
Right? That energy landscape is very critical to Nigeria's economic well-being, and we need to exploit and make the most of it if we are to achieve the economic goals we have set out for ourselves to achieve.
yeah. Right.
Nigeria is going to be the fifth most populous country in the world by 2050, which is a mere 1.5 decades from now.
Yeah.
And that comes with significant challenges, problems, and opportunities. Without energy, you sure are not going to be able to achieve the economic outlook or economic goals that you set out to do for yourself.
That's beautiful, and I strongly agree with you. I strongly agree with you. Want to again appreciate you for joining us on this conversation. It's been an enlightening and interesting conversation so far, and
Thank you.
we look forward to having a conversation with you again in the future. And thank you so much
No troubles, no
for
troubles. Thank you very
thank
much,
you for
Uche.
joining
Really
us.
appreciate the opportunity to share the platform.
Once again, thank you, Dr. Kaase, and have a wonderful day.
All right. Thank you very much. You too. Bye for now.
Yeah, bye.